Hey there, everybody. What's up? Welcome to the How to Lead podcast. My name is Adam, joined by Clay. Listen, we want to do one thing with this podcast. We want to try to have conversations that help you develop yourself and those around you. And so, Clay, I think we got a good one lined up today that will help our listeners with that. So, Green Glass Doors, you ever played that game?
No, I saw you. Obviously, I've been reading your notes. I don't know the Green Glass Door. I'm interested. You got me.
Yeah. So this is a game that you can do with a group. You basically, every time you're at dinner with the size of your family, it's a small gathering of humans.
Dinner party.
I saw your picture of your family today on one of them on LinkedIn with the first day of school, and I was like, did he get more? Those are all his kids. I didn't know he had that many.
So over here.
You do. It just picked a couple up at a yard sale, I guess. So anyway, you could do this at dinner. So basically, Green Glass Doors is this. Imagine you've got green glass doors, and there's somebody who is the rule maker, and they come up with a rule of only a certain type of item can make it through the green glass door. And then everybody who's playing has to try to guess what types of items can make it through the green glass door. And so you just go, okay, I got my rule. You guys start asking. So it's kind of like a 20 questions.
Got it.
But the fun part of Green Glass Doors is watching the crowd slowly start to get it. And they all start going, oh, okay. And then there's a group that still doesn't get what the rule is, and they start to get more frustrated. And they start to feel like, I'm taking crazy pills over here, right? How am I the only one who hasn't figured it out?
I thought an apple would be able to get through.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah.
No.
Why did a computer make it through, but a laptop won't? And so it's just you make up a rule. So my go-to one is always I start something with the letter C. So just if it starts with the letter C, that makes it through. So somebody
Cake
be like,
gets through, a
cake
donut
gets
doesn't.
through, doesn't. And so they're like, but I thought, and it's just so fun to watch. And then once, and this is one of those games that doesn't celebrate a winner, it ridicules a loser, which those are kind of fun. Because you really just don't want to be the last one who can't figure it out. And so...
And I see where you're going with this, because success at work feels that way.
It really does.
It ridicules the loser.
It really does.
How I thought this was the game we're playing, and yet I haven't gotten promoted, and she did? Are you kidding me?
What? Yeah. Yes, that's it. And so that's why I like playing it. Is it burns a little time. There's some laughter. There's always some fun inside joke that can come. Like in that last episode, we talked about some of the magic of a live learning experience. You get some of that. But then the point is, yes, exactly what you said, is that I think sometimes our career can feel like green glass doors where there are some rules that we don't know, or the rules change. And that's the thing about green glass door. Once somebody else figures it out, then there's a new gatekeeper and the rules change. And sometimes you're the last one to know what the rule is, and that is a terribly vulnerable feeling. And so that's what we want to talk about today is like what happens, like the rules that change in our career, and thinking about it as a game, I think can be helpful.
That is a brilliant illustration, because to your point, it really is maddening. It's maddening when you think you have it figured out, and unfortunately, the education we got, potentially some previous employers that we've had, maybe mentors that we've had, well-meaning, well-intentioned people were trying to help us understand the game. But to your point, it does sometimes change.
Yep.
And more often than not, what actually leads to success is not necessarily what seems like would be the thing to lead to success. Yeah. I'm excited to dig into this.
Well, yeah. And let's just think about it very simply as game one and game two. I think we could have a lot of fun with this and probably come up with a few more games. But generally speaking, game one and game two, it's the same career. It's two different games, and there's two different sets of rules, and you win two different ways. And if you don't, and the crazy thing is, Clay, again, very similar to Green Glass Door, you don't know when you've crossed the line most of the times into game two. Now, sometimes there are some very clear delineating events or situations, and we'll talk about a few of those. But even when you've maybe gone through one of those, you still haven't, like your eyes still haven't opened up to the fact that I'm playing a totally different game now. See, also this lunch I had with our good friend, this week, and we were talking all about that. Is like, oh my gosh, the game has changed, and I'm just now realizing it. And that is, I've been sharing this with my clients in my workshops recently. They're all kind of having some similar reactions to this. And so let's just real quickly, game 1 and game 2. There's a little visual that goes with it. I'll just kind of throw it up here for those watching on YouTube. That's what it looks like. But very quickly, it's just game 1 is this. Here's how you win. This will be of no surprise to anybody that listens to our podcast, because these are things we have both written about in our books, right? The Edge and how to win when you're not, or how to lead when you're not in charge. But you work hard. You're trying to earn trust, which you primarily do through your hard work and your competency. You really want to try to develop your craft, whatever it is that you're being paid to do. If you want to be a good accountant, a good architect, a good nurse, a good teacher, a good software developer, whatever it is, you want to do really well with that. You have to have a very good attitude, which you talk a lot about with choosing positivity. So I would say game number 1, you primarily win game number 1 through your technical proficiency. And it's really about just delivery and dependability. And if you're doing those things, you're largely going to win in game 1. What would you add to that?
Well, I would say there is a point in most people's career where they get to that level where you're now managing people who have a higher technical proficiency than you do.
Yep.
And when you get there, that's a really scary place to be, right? I mean, it's a very common question that you probably get when you're speaking to younger leaders is, hey, I'm now managing people that are older than me, more experienced than me, or have been doing the job longer than I've been doing it. But
That's
because of my whatever background, ability to connect with people, because I was really good at being technically proficient, they have now put me in charge of people who do the thing that we're all trying to do better than I even do it. But that doesn't mean that you can't be a great leader. And so that's the thing that I think excites me about game 2. There's nothing wrong with game 1, but game 2 is a higher level of leadership, but it does feel the rules feel a bit invisible.
They do, yeah. And like I said, a lot of times you don't even know when you started playing it, or you don't realize that the rules have changed. And so for most people, the clear line is what you just said. You go from being an individual contributor to being some sort of a leader. Like you're not just responsible for your own to-do list. It's now somebody else's as well. So you get a promotion to, a supervisor, a lead, a manager, a department head, whatever it is. The bottom line is there's some sort of a promotion where they said you were really good at game 1, and the reward is now to play a completely different game.
Yeah, but they just don't say it that way, right?
They don't. They're just like, hey, you're now going to be a senior, or you're now going to be a manager, or now you get to do this, and you're also going to lead the team. And so game 2, right? This is where a lot of people, when you're in game 2, you win in a completely different way. And so if you try to win game 2 through the tactics that you used in game 1, which, by the way, you got celebrated for winning and doing those tactics in game 1. For many of you, you did it for like a decade, and you thought, I've cracked the code. For a decade, this is how I got my raises, my bonuses, my recognition. This is how I got the employee of the month parking spot. This is what I did, and now it's all completely different. So game 2, here's how you win game 2. Now you got to be the one who brings energy to the team. You've got to own outcomes regardless if you're the one who does it.
Yeah, that's right.
That responsibility, you're just like, now I'm making sure the team, we are going to achieve these results. Now you got to develop yourself, because you're kind of out on an island in many ways. And so it's no longer structured. It's a lot of it is you got to develop yourself. You have very underrated. You have to stay calm in the midst of all the chaos that is happening on a daily basis. And so if game number 1 was primarily, Clay, about technical proficiency, game number 2, I would say, is about relational savvy. It really becomes about your ability to navigate relationships, to work with, as Ryan Leake would say, complicated people. And so where game 1 was about delivery and dependability, game 2 is primarily about making decisions. And one of my new favorite words, it's not new, but I've been using it more, diplomacy. Being diplomatic. Right, which is a skillfulness on navigating relationships, a way to win without making enemies, recognizing that you exist in a context and you've got to make sure everybody collaborates and everybody talks and everybody's heard. That's how you win in game 2. So game 1's about dependability and game 2's about diplomacy.
Yeah, you don't have to be the Secretary of State to
No,
to need that skill of diplomacy. That's for sure. Yeah, that diplomacy is a great word. There is it feels like a higher level of leadership to be able
it
to
is.
understand that you do exist in a context, and that your ability to succeed might threaten other people, but learning how to put them at ease. I love the concept of not just developing your craft, but developing yourself. There does come
Yeah.
a time in your career where the development opportunities, they don't necessarily dry up, but they're just not as they're not as rewarding, they're not as fruitful as they once were. And learning how to stay sharp and continue
Yeah.
to grow that skill is it does change over the course of your career. And then staying
Yeah.
calm, yeah, that's a great. I love the concept that great leaders know how to absorb chaos and ooze or reflect or respond with that sense of calmness.
Yeah.
I like the combo too of bringing energy that you started with, right? There comes a time when you got to know how to bring the juice. If you've ever around those kinds of leaders that,
Yeah.
you when you see somebody turn it on, I mean, it's kind of amazing that you're like,
It
wow, that's not it's not inauthentic. It's just not the way you normally, it's not your way of being, but the moment called for it. You knew that, hey, this moment, I need to be able to bring some juice right here, and I can. That's what I think of when I think about learning how to bring that energy. It doesn't
Yeah.
mean you're an enthusiastic person. You don't have to be an extrovert to do it. But yeah, that's a real skill to know how to do
Yeah.
that. But I love the term relational savvy. This is excellent. I'm
Yeah. Well, thanks.
I'm a fan. I love
And so I
love
think
that you came up with this.
the big point for us here, like that is where I'm seeing leaders having their eyes open, is leaders who are in game 2, and this gives them some language to go, okay, this is why things have been challenging. And so, what we've kind of jokingly called this episode is what worked over there doesn't work in here. So what worked in game 1 doesn't necessarily work here in game 2. So your operating system in game 1 that you were excellent at, I mean, just you were fantastic at doing it. That's what got you into game 2. That operating system will crash and burn. You will burn out. Your team will get frustrated. And so it's good to recognize that we are in this game 2, and then you got to find that way to just go, okay, I got some new skills to learn. I just stepped out of the comfort zone. I'm in some new territory. But just like you were in new territory when you first entered into game 1 and you figured it out, I bet you're going to be able to figure this one out too. And it's really trying to figure out, how can I get better at making quality decisions? Because that's what my team needs, is they need me to make decisions. How can I get better at making quality decisions? And how can I get better with people? How can I be more diplomatic? So all those things that we talk about so much, Clay, it's really interesting, Clay, because in my upcoming book, In the Fog of Work, in one of the appendix, I am putting a list of resources, very simply about like how to improve your relationships at work. Because I mentioned that in the book, but it's kind of beyond the scope of the book. But I didn't want to leave the reader just going, well, how do I do that? So I put a list of some of my favorite books, and I listed all the podcast episodes that you and I have talked about on this podcast on how to improve relationships. And man, it was overwhelming how many times we talk about this. It's like, I don't know if this is really the How to Lead podcast or the How to Win with People podcast, because it seemed like we have so many episodes where it really is, here's how to do relationships better at work.
Well, it probably says a little bit about where we are in our careers, that we're at that place, if I can say it this way, that success now depends on how well you work through others, right?
That's
and not
so
just
good.
on your own performance,
That is
not
so
just
good.
working
Yep.
on your own ability to get things done. And that's a very, some of that's parenting, right?
Yeah.
Parenting is learning how to work through others and not just your own performance. Boy, that really creates a lot of guilt and feelings of failure and for me, but that's just a different way of thinking about leadership. Can I ask you, what would you advise someone? Would you say is the key to identify which of these two games that you're in, or is there merit, or is it worth somebody going through the exercise to go, no, let me determine what game is being played in the company that I'm working in or on the team that I'm on? What would you say to somebody? How would you advise them to take this and leverage it?
Well, here's what I would say is I think game 2 is played in every single organization.
Yep.
There is some sort of a system, is what the social psychologists would call it. You have a system of relationships there. And success in that organization, if there's more than one person that works there, success in that organization is being able to successfully navigate those relationships and recognizing that this is I need to learn how to listen. I need to learn how to be curious. I need to learn how to communicate in the way the other person is going to find inspiring and motivating. This came out of my mouth the other day, and I'm like, man, I kind of like that. I think for diplomacy, oftentimes what we need to do is learn how to talk, and I'm very specifically with talk more like a marketer than like a leader.
Yeah.
Because marketers are they're so like smart and brilliant with how to say things in a very attractive and appetizing way that leads us to change our behavior. And they're very effective at that. And there's kind of like a secret formula to it. And they do things, they do some work, and they focus on that. And I think it's been very effective. And I see that over and over again, that those who are very diplomatic, they know how to market their ideas internally. And so that means they know how to do market research. They know what every party wants. They know how to present things and what the other party wants. And they do all of this without making enemies, without using people. It's not using people. It's just being diplomatic. It's being skilled.
There's a humility that's required to go from game one to game two as well, because it does feel like game one, you're building a brand for yourself. I'm proficient. I love your idea there, the way you said it, of being technically proficient, right? There's something about that. I want to be known as someone who's technically proficient. The challenge of game two is that when I'm learning how to work through others, they might be the ones getting the credit. They might be the ones that are getting the applause for it. And I've got to be okay with that. I think there is a sense of humility. It reminds me of Ryan Holiday's book, Ego is the Enemy, of being able to get over your own ego, being able to go, you know what, if I want to get to that level, if I really want to learn how to apply the rules in game two, I'm going to have to get over my own ego and accept a sense of humility, which ultimately that's never going to hurt you, right? I mean, this was Jim Collins' level 5 leader, is the leader that's willing to say, hey, it's not me, it's the team, right? I saw yesterday, I was at the University of Oklahoma. Their athletic director, Jim Castiglione, has been there for over 20 years. He's won 27 national championships since he's been the AD there. And he just announced his retirement. He was stepping down. And this was his last department-wide meeting that he was getting to address the entire athletic department. It was remarkable to hear the humility on display of him saying, anything that I have done here, I deserve no credit for it. It was all of you who did it. He told me, I said, what's the secret to recruiting, hiring great coaches? He said, I tell them, as soon as you start working for me, I start working for you. I thought that kind of mindset, that's game two, right? That's applying the rules of game two, of saying, it's not about me, it is about me trying to figure out how to unleash the best that's in you. Yeah. And that's just not easy to do. It's not intuitive to do that.
It's not. So let me just give somebody some practical things, because this is, here's what I love about doing a podcast with you, Clay, and just what we get to do with content creators is some of this is being built now, right? Like there's this game one, game two language. I'm seeing it resonates. And so it's been a lot of fun to kind of work on this message and work on some practical things. I came to the exact same conclusion this morning. And I love that you talked about humility, because I was like, I think that is the foundation of all of this, is the low self-preoccupation, the not being obsessed with self, and all that goes with that. I really do. Said
it's not about thinking of less of yourself. It's about thinking of yourself less, right? That concept.
It's just money. It is money. And listen, we all talk about Jim Collins and the level 5 leader, and we all nod our head, and we all love it when somebody else is humble. But then I just don't see a lot of people talking about what that can be for us. Yeah. And I think there's some things there, and it'd be fun to unpack a few of those in some episodes ahead. But let me just share one like ancient almost now resource, and I just want to share three lines from it, because to my great shame, I thought I had read this book years ago, but I just for the first time read Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. And if what
made you do that?
Because I don't know. I really don't know. I think it just popped into my mind. I had an Audible credit. I didn't want anything too deep. And so I was like, I'll just listen to that one quote again. And then I start listening to it and I'm like, this was all, man, I forgot. I'm like sitting there going, I forgot a lot of all of this. This is so good. Then I looked at my bookshelf and I realized, oh, what I thought was How to Win Friends and Influence People was actually his book on public speaking. And so this is the first time I've read it, right? And
I want to hear
that
these
book
quotes.
is 90 years old, by the way.
Wow.
It's 90 years old, and it is as relevant today as it must have been back in 1936. So let me just share 3 things here, and this just, if it whets your appetite and you just go buy Carnegie's book, then that's a win. Any fool, which, by the way, you starting with Mr. T like that with any fool, that's where it all came from. So any fool can criticize, condemn, and complain, but it takes character and self-control to be understanding and forgiving.
That's great.
And I'm like, okay, that's a great clue for us to be diplomats around the office is you're going to be understanding and you're going to be forgiving because you got to figure out what people want. And then when they act weird, because they're going to, be forgiving.
Well, that's EQ, right? It's the ability to pause, suspend your own judgment, control your own impulse to respond negatively. And then, as Michelle Obama said, when they go low, you go high, right? It's taking that higher ground.
That's right. Okay, so this is maybe my favorite one. Carnegie says this: talk to someone about themselves and they will listen for hours.
Wow. That is very true.
So true. Which again, once you start trying to figure out what do you want and then let me try to help you get that, that is the secret to influence. And then this one does sound like 1936, okay, because I don't think we use these words anymore, but we get it. A drop of honey catches more flies than a gallon of gall, which basically means sweet things will accomplish more than bitter things.
Yeah.
And so
carrot, not the stick.
That's right. Yeah, so being an agreeable person, being somebody who is easy to work with. There's one of my clients that said his whole philosophy for his career, and he's made it to be the president of this big multinational organization right now. So the world would say he's had a successful career. He would say his philosophy is he always wanted to be easy to work with. And that's a guy that I think figured out early on diplomacy is how you win game 2.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I could go on, but I think that's
great.
There's it. So we got these
classics.
2 games.
You're calling us back to the classics, Adam.
Let's go.
Get back into Carnegie, people. 2 games, 1 career. That's excellent.
That is it. So anyway, Clay, fun as always to talk with you, and appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Adam.
Well, that's all we got for today's episode of the How to Lead podcast. You can always reach out to us via email. We can be reached at info@howtolead.work. That's info@howtolead.work. Every episode is mixed and edited by the team over at Sound of a Rose. You can learn more about them at soundofarose.com. Thank you so much for listening. We'll talk to you again next time.